Good morning and welcome back to Fresh. I'm Julie Dilorenzo, your host for this segment, of course, and brought to you in part by the Elkhart County LIving Magazine. And if you haven't had a chance to pick up the magazine yet, you really should give it a try. You can go to local Martins and Kroger's and pick it up off the newsstand. Another great way to check it out is to go to www.maplecitymedia.com. You can click on the magazine there, check out current issues, you can check out back issues, and see what kind of information they provided for you and your family. There's always a bi-monthly calendar in here, which tells you what's going on in the area through a 2-month period. There's always great restaurant suggestions. There's events, different merchants that they've discovered and maybe what their wares are that you can go and check them out as well. It's really, really a fun magazine. It's also a great way to maybe to keep a loved one who's moved away or retired to a warmer state. You might want to buy one for them, send a subscription down their way to keep them updated on what's happening in the Elkhart County area. But it is a great magazine. You can also subscribe to it online at www.maplecitymedia.com. It is only $12 for a year's subscription. It's a bi-monthly magazine, so you are only going to get it 6 times a year, but what a great deal for you to have. And another thing that Maple City Media offers is 2 more insert magazines that they put in their newspapers. There's the Health and Wellness and the 50 Plus, and actually the 50 Plus magazine is going to be coming out in the January 28th issue of the newspaper, and they're going to talk about oh gosh, if you've just recently become a widow, maybe ways to grieve or support groups that you can meet up with to help with your grieving process. There's also going to be some ideas on covering up gray, and I know that's always something I like to know about, but you can always do it yourself or maybe go to a professional, but they've got some ideas in there on covering up gray. Also keeping active as a 50-plus citizen, and maybe some safe things to do, some new things to do. So make sure if you don't have a subscription to the Goshen News, you might want to check that out as well, because this magazine and the Health and Wellness magazine only comes out in the newspaper. So this comes out on January 28th, so you might want to run out and pick up a newspaper at least on that day so you can check out this magazine. Okay, like we said, we are here today at the public library here in Syracuse, and we're going to talk today with Becky Brower, and she's going to step in and join me. So come on in. We're going to be nice, close friends today. And we're going to talk to you about the libraries in general, but we are here at this very lovely and quaint library in Syracuse, which you guys just celebrated your 100th anniversary in 2009.
Yes. We're a Carnegie library, but before we were Carnegie, we started at the library across the street in a basement. So that was 100 years ago. And then we had a celebration where we had some speakers and an open house.
Yeah, great. Well, and it's a pretty good sized library for Syracuse. Is it well attended or well visited?
Syracuse surprisingly has a large area around the lake, so we are a bigger library than you would expect here in the
And I think Syracuse is not so much just a lake community anymore as well, so that you got people all year round now.
Oh yes, we're quite busy. We really used to see a lull in the winter, and now we're busy all the time.
Well, good. Well, Becky, you've been here for about 10 years, you said. You're an assistant, but you really like you help with the children's activities.
I do. I get to help in a number of places, and I'm a young adult coordinator also, so I get to work with the kids, and that's always fun.
Well, we're going to talk about young adult books here in a minute, but one thing I want to ask you is, what are some of the popular authors that are out right now that you see people coming in and asking for, or maybe even just some of your own favorite authors, and what type of books that they actually write?
Yeah, what we do is we get a bestseller list off of Publishers Weekly, and we update it every week. And then we have sections where the new books are put out with a new book sticker, and people like to check that, because then they can see what's new and what they haven't read.
Is it pretty easy for someone to come in and say, oh, I was at my mom's and she had this great new book. Do you guys have it? And if you don't, is it pretty accessible for you to get that book in for them?
It is. We have a number of ways to get it for them, and a lot of times we really appreciate the updates, so that we will order it for ourselves then if they liked it.
And you were saying earlier that you actually sometimes will share books with other libraries. Is that correct?
Yes. Interlibrary loans, so hard to find books. We can even access academic libraries and other libraries for popular books.
Yeah. Well, speaking of popular, I know in our household, the Twilight Saga series was very popular, sometimes even a wait list at the libraries. And how has that gone over here in Syracuse?
We also had a wait list. We're still checking out there. It was a young adult adult book. And so there's a lot of vampire books out there and supernatural, and that's been really popular, and it's good for the boys too because they like to read that also.
Yeah. Well, what are I know it's a great, come in and get a good book. What are some authors that let's just say somebody wants romantic novel. Do you have an author that you particularly like for romance?
Debbie McCumber is popular, and we do have a romance section, so that kind of helps guide them. She's the main one, but it's a lot of Christian authors that kind of go romance Christian.
That's nice. How about more action for men? Anything out there that the guys are really liking?
Clive Cussler, David Baldacci has a new book. It's on the bestseller list. So yeah.
Well, the library isn't just for books as well. I mean, when we came in today, we noticed there's a lot of young people here using the computers, and people forget that you can come in here if you don't have a computer of your own, that they can come in and access the computer here at the library.
Yeah, the computers get used an awful lot, and we've added 2 more computers, so we have 10 computers now that people don't have to have a card. They can just come in and use the computer.
Oh, we don't have to have a library card.
No, not for the computer use. You do to check out materials.
Yeah. And speaking of library cards, boy, there's not many things these days that are free that can get you some great entertainment in the way of a good read. And library cards are still free.
They are. People pay for them through their property tax, so that when you get a library card, it's related to you living in a certain area. So you need to live in an area that pays taxes. Right. And then people in Syracuse are in Turkey Creek Township.
I never knew that. Turkey Creek. That's cute. Well, so bring your card in here, and not only you can check out some great movies. You have movies, you have music. I think people forget that this not only has books, but a lot of other resources.
And magazines. So we've added to our DVD collection. We have a great history collection in our DVDs.
Yeah. And what about some of the old classic movies? Are they still on VHS?
They've come out, so we have some in the new DVD format, but we kept our VHS. They're very durable. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I know I went through a phase a few summers ago where I would go to the library and just check out like old Natalie Cole music, or maybe her father's music that maybe, back then I had it on cassette and it broke or didn't last, but I still wanted the music, and that's available here at the libraries. How new, updated music do you get?
We don't really mess with the music too much. It's a whole nother section, but some libraries do. I think Elkhart and South Bend are very good at keeping up with their music. So it's just it's a little overwhelming to do everything. So
well, you do a lot here. I can really tell people that. Another thing that I want to kind of touch base on is I know when my kids were little, I used to really get them involved with the libraries. Sometimes the schools would partner with the libraries and say, we're going to have, a reading program. You have to read 7 books before Christmas break or something like that. What kind of children's activities do you have here?
They're very active downstairs. They have, starting with babies, they have some programming, and there's several different programs that encourage reading before the children start school. There's summer reading always, and book clubs. Right. So
do you have book clubs that actually will meet here?
Yes, we have for the children and for young adults, and then adults too.
Yeah, good place to get away. It's quiet. Nobody's going to be loud. Well, you try to make it quiet.
Room so that they can have some fun.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, they don't want to be quiet all the time.
Well, anything else that, maybe we haven't covered that you think, people forget that the libraries offer? I mean, we've talked about books, movie checkouts, music checkouts, magazines. I always forget about the magazines. But, it's also for college kids or kids in high school, it's a great place to resource maybe projects they're working on.
Yes, we have a large nonfiction section that we keep updated. I've heard many comments from people that say we've got a very, very good reference section. So, and we're able to help with research activities too, so they can ask a librarian.
Good. Well, I tell you, libraries, you can't go wrong. They really haven't changed a whole lot, but they offer so much. So if you need a good read, maybe an old classic music, some old classic movie, or some music, just check out your local library. It's free. You just have to prove that you're a citizen of where you're living, where that library is at. So I think we forget about how important our libraries are to us. So we're here to remind you today here on Fresh. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment after this short break.